Hi, my name is Solomon, and in this fourth video of the IRROS series, I will walk you through the structure of the Interbotix ROS Toolboxes repository. So go to github.com/interbotix/interbotix ROS Toolboxes to see something that looks like this. And let's focus on the circular graph here. What we see highlighted is the Interbotix ROS Toolboxes because that's where we're on. And the description for that is support level modules and ROS packages. So in the top level directory here, we have various toolboxes, and there are a couple different types. Some of these are hardware specific, like they're focused on a specific computer platform or a specific actuator. And others are application specific. So they can be used, for example, on multiple robotic platforms. And the reason that we have the code here is instead of having duplicates of code in the different repositories for the different platforms, we'll just keep all the code in one place in this repository to avoid duplicates, and it just makes things so much more maintainable. Okay, so in the first one here, the Interbotix Common Toolbox, so let's click it. And we have the Interbotix Common Modules ROS package. If we click that, we're just going to see description here, and it lists the different modules in this ROS package. Right now there's only one. It's called angle manipulation, which is just a small library of functions that can be used to convert Euler angles to rotation matrices and vice versa. And that's something that's used in our manipulator repository, our rover repository, the hexapod repository, not the turret one, but it's still used in many of them. So that's why it's in the common modules ROS package. And then we have the Move It interface ROS package. So this is where the source code is, where the source code lives, that creates examples that use the Move Group Python and C++ APIs that build on top of Move It. It's used in both the Interbotix ROS Rover repository for the mobile manipulator locobots and for our standalone ARMs. So again, we have the source code here just to avoid duplicates in both of the other repositories. We have a cat can ignore file here as well, because if you're working with a platform that doesn't have an ARM, then there's no reason to install it. Okay. Moving back. Then we have the Interbotix Perception Toolbox. We click that. We only have one ROS package called Interbotix Perception Modules. So if we click that and look at the README, we can see a few different modules that we have, as well as some ROS nodes that we have, and a description of what they are and how they work. So this toolbox has the source code to do perception based on to do perception with an arm. So if you have a robotic arm with an April tag on it, you can use a depth camera and a color depth camera to figure out where the arm is relative to the camera. And then the camera, there's also code in this repository, in this ROS package, to figure out the position of small objects on a tabletop surface. So since this can be used with either our standalone ARMs or with our ROS Rover platforms, so we keep all the source code in this repository to avoid duplicates. But theoretically, you could even use this with other ARMs, not just Dynamixel-based ARMs. Okay, and we have a cat can ignore file here, because if you don't want to do perception, then you might as well not build this code and avoid installing dependencies that you don't need. Okay, so that's the Perception Toolbox. Then we have the RPi Toolbox. This is specific to the Raspberry Pi 4 computer. And in here we have a ROS package called Interbotix RPi Modules. Right now there's only one module in here, and that is to control NeoPixels. So if this is specific really for our hexapod platform, which has 2 NeoPixels, one for each eye. And that's used to show you the state of the robot. So two of those NeoPixels are hooked up to 2 of the GPIO pins on the Raspberry Pi, and the code here is used to make those NeoPixels flash different colors or blink or turn off. So it can be used for one or more neopixels. There's no limit. So again, there's no reason to build that package though if you don't need it. So that's why we have a cat can ignore file there. And I just want to reiterate that this isn't something that you have to do manually. You don't have to manually remove these cat can ignore files. When you run the installation script for a specific robot platform, it'll take care of removing the appropriate cat can ignore files for you. Then we have the Interbotix UX Toolbox. That's code that is used to work with the UFactory ARM, the xArm 5, 6, or 7. So we have the UX modules ROS package, and there are a few modules here to interface with the ROS wrapper around the actuators in the UFactory ARM, to work with the gripper, specifically the 2-finger gripper. Then we have an ARM-related module to do IK based on the Modern Robotics library created at Northwestern. So you can read more about that here. And we also have a UX ROS control ROS package. So this is a ROS package that takes a trajectory from MoveIt, and it sends the position commands in that trajectory straight to the robot's hardware, the UFactory ARM's hardware. Even though right now we only have a standalone standalone xArm, but theoretically you could put it on a mobile base, and then that would be considered a rover. So you would have ROS packages in the rover repository, and in order to avoid duplicates, it's just better to keep all the source code elements in the Toolboxes repository, and there would be a separate ROS control ROS package in the Interbotix ROS rovers repository, just with some configurable parameters like YAML files to specify like what type of robot it is. It's a 5 degree of freedom, 6 degree of freedom, 7 def, what the joint names are, etc. All right. And finally, we have the XS Toolbox. So this is code that can be used on multiple robotic platforms, for arms, for rovers, for hexapods, for turrets. And it's all just here to prevent duplicates again. So we have the XS modules ROS package, and that contains quite a few modules, and you can read up on them over here. And we have the Interbotix XS ROS control package. So that is a ROS. It contains the source code to accept a trajectory from MoveIt, and then interface with the Interbotix XS SDK ROS package to control a Dynamixel ARM. And since this can be used again for a local bot platform with a Dynamixel ARM, or for a standalone ARM, we have the code in only here in just one place to avoid duplicates. And if you don't have an ARM, let's say you're working with a turret platform or hexapod platform, so then this cat can ignore file would not be removed, and you would not install those packages since there's no reason to. Okay, and that pretty much sums up the Interbotix ROS Toolboxes repository. Thank you for watching.